Good evening, everyone. I am Reverend Melissa McQueen Simmons, the spiritual director and virtual pastor for Holy Ground Spiritual Center. And I am glad you are here. We are glad you have decided to join us tonight for the second part of our Holistic Faith Series titled Relationships, Intimacy, and Sexuality During a Pandemic. You are in for a treat tonight. We have my sister, my friend, my confidant. She say I'm her favorite reverend. I say she's also my spiritual director, my spiritual guide, my everything. Cam's auntie. So yes, I'm gonna read her bio shortly, but I just wanted to share. Um, I just wanted to share the reason we are doing this Holistic Faith series is because it has come to my attention that many of us are encountering differences or um, obstacles, challenges, however you decide to call the situations with our relationships since the pandemic. And I'm also mindful that there are some people who have been able to flourish and embrace their loved one or loved ones and have been able to tap into some new things to enhance their relationship. But I also want to hold those close and dear, the ones who have been, has found it a challenge, whether you with someone or not with someone. So tonight we're going to talk about different ways to enhance our relationship. Lucretia is going to share some thoughts and some practices and some ideas with us to just put in our toolbox or to carry with us as we navigate healthy relationships with when it comes to intimacy and especially sexuality. So I have decided that I wanted to read her bio because I just think you all need to just know how amazing she is. So here goes. With a journey that began as a little girl mixing herbs, clays, and muds on her grandparents' farm, Lucretia VanDyke has been in the industry for over 20 years. A holistic educator, speaker, herbalist, sacred sexologist, ceremonialist, spiritual light coach, intuitive, energetic, and Reiki practitioner, diviner, and world traveler with over 3,000 hours of training. I mean, that alone lets you know that she is here. She is here for it, y'all. She has come to slay. She did not come to play. So Lucretia, she has studied with some of the great minds of our time and indigenous healers. Lucretia has been a holistic practitioner for over 2 decades, focusing on integrating indigenous healing rituals, plant spirit medicine, and meditation into your modern day practice. Lucretia brings her vivacious spirit and message of self-love in her work to inspire others to embrace their unique beauty and purpose. Her work with herbs and sacred practices honors women's wholeness, medicine, grief work, sexual trauma, ancestor connection, womb healing, self-empowerment, food alchemy, and holistic self-care. Lucretia, the stage is yours.
Yay! Thank you, Holy Ground, for having me. I'm so excited to be here. I always giggle listening to my bio all the time. It's like people are like, how do you juggle all these things? You handle everything from birth to death and grief and then you throw in sexual health and wellness and sacred sexology. And, everybody always asks me, like, how did that get started? I probably have been 25 years of my life about studying sex from different perspectives and different understandings of different indigenous people throughout time. I've been really funny. I always giggle in the beginning of my 20s. I probably was first and foremost to taking most of my friends to get their first pleasure aid, to get their first thing and be the first one to have a conversation about understanding self-pleasure. So we fast forward to my years in the spa industry, and I was working in resorts and different places like that, and like multi-million dollar spas. And every time I closed the door and you would begin this relaxation process, each client would come to me, and women had the same issues over and over again. Men had the same issues over and over again. It was this inert lack of alignment with the self. Everybody's like, I feel like my body, my mind, and my spirit are three different places. My husband and I don't, have sex anymore. We're not intimate. Same gender loving couples the same way. And, these issues after issue after issue. I'm in a polyamorous relationship, but I don't want to have sex. So many different things just kept coming up over my entire, experience. So I started thinking, okay. And one day I actually was in the shower and I'm like taking a shower. I'm like, okay, God, this keeps coming up. If I'm supposed to do this, I need you to give me a sign. Because I'm in corporate wellness and sex is so risque, especially in the South, and people have their thing. And I'm like, if this is really, truly my purpose, show me a sign. So the next day I go to visit a friend of mine, and she had a wig store where she would service people with cancer coming to get wigs and all these accessories. It was just a fun atmosphere, feather boas, things like that. And this lady who looked like, your grandma or your older auntie, like she was in a moo kind of thing, hair done, once a week, real tight, the type, if you're from the South or anybody. So this lady's sitting there and I'm by myself, and she was like, you know what she needs to sell here? And I'm like, what, ma'am? She said, vibrators. She said, honey, me and my friends, our husbands can't get it up anymore, and we need to pleasure ourselves. And so I sat there in this like really interesting space of like, okay, first of all, who prays to have that kind of sign, first of all? And I began to think myself really silly about praying for that after I did. And then over the course of a week, I would go to dinner parties and different things like that. And I would run into different women who were inspired by a lot of my stories or hearing about some of my work. And they would share these very intimate and emotional things with me. I kept working in spaces where predominantly there were women there. And one office I worked in at one time, there was like 15 or so women, and over half of them had never had an orgasm. I was like, what do you mean you have 7 kids or 5 kids or 3 kids or whatever? And they were like, I don't know if I did. So this just kept going. I was like, okay, I get it. This is one of my sacred purposes. So I began to understand that I needed to approach sex in a way. So again, I went to another teacher who taught Eastern medicine. I'm an acupuncturist. I intern under just different herbalists and healers of different modalities to keep understanding on a deeper level how the body works, how the network works. What is the ceremony that the indigenous people did to like reclaim this energy before we were told that we should suppress it? So I went down the rabbit hole. And in the Far East, what I found was speaking with one of my teachers. I was like, oh, I want to add sex into wellness. I keep getting this. I keep getting this sign. I keep doing the, I just don't know. And then he said in ancient Chinese medicine that if couples had disharmony, their medicine person would prescribe them sex positions to realign the body. And he said, so you're really not off. You're just coming back from an old way. And I was like, oh, wow. So if we look at Chinese medicine, I don't know how many people are really familiar with it, but the body is set up on Meridian Pathways. It's very similar to how your house is wired for electricity. The body is also. We could break it down really simple. Each point from the finger kind of runs points all the way down the body. And so we don't really understand the levels of connection that we make with each other and the influence each person's body and energy can have on each other by just simply uniting in different ways through breath and touch. And I find that sex has become more of a physical act than what it was meant to be as a spiritual act. And I'm not talking about just sex with your partner. I teach a lot of people who are single, who are divorced, who are of all different schematics, how to embrace each other and explore their own sexual wellness. And I'm going to teach you some of those tips later, some of my favorite meditations for igniting your mojo. And then we'll talk about some plants and things also. But when we talk about the pandemic, has really did a lot. It put a lot of strain on a lot of relationships. In my own personal experience, I went through a divorce, a complete uncoupling during this. There was a lot of pressure and a lot of heartbreak. And so luckily, whenever things happen to me, I'm like, okay, let's build a wellness plan. Let's build, for lack of a better word, a medicine wheel. How am I going to heal through this? How am I going to move forward? Where am I going to, all those things come into play with yourself. How do I rekindle and ignite something? Because a lot of people have been in relationships for a really long time without any form of intimacy, and that starts to affect your self-worth. No one can be in a relationship, a long-term relationship, without having some sense of intimacy between their partner. And the conversations are extremely hard to happen around that. And sometimes you'll have more people working on one side than the other side. So it's a constant reevaluation of where you stand with each other with that, and making other arrangements if possible. We were talking earlier before this come on about the foundations of relationships and how different couples have different outlines to how their relationship would go. Polyamory, monogamy. There's so many different ways that we can love each other. Love is so multi-layered. The Greeks even had a complete study of it. They had so many different levels of love. And as I began to understand that there's multiple levels of love, it opens up the potential of having multiple types of relationships. And sometimes when we are together, we have to come to the table from a heart-centered space, leaving our ego, leaving our hurt, and being able to hear the person across the table from us and understand and allow them space, and being able to communicate what we need as well. So when the Greeks talk about love, they talk about eros. Eros is passion. It's this that igniting feeling that you get when two or sometimes more people come together in alignment and they ignite that in each other. There is familia, the love between family. The Greeks actually think that you need a whole separate type of love for family because it requires a whole separate type of forgiveness. And throw in the chat. I mean, does everybody know how much extra, because your blood relatives, like, I just can't, I mean, you can block them, but we're still also connected. So that type of love takes a whole different level. And then we can move into agape, which is universal love. It's the love that we give through our charity work. It's the love that we give to our community. It's the love that we share with the Most High, the one that expands us beyond this physical world. So when we approach relationships, I tend to find that people confuse common interest and that spark because we don't have any more containers to go. So I like you. We have to be together and we need to date. That's all. That's it. That's just like, and it becomes from this long line of programming that we are meant to relate to finding a mate, that you're meant to do that, especially as women. I don't know how long the phrase boys will be boys. It's like boys were encouraged throughout, my childhood. And as I find elders and all that, that's the excuse that people have been given for men to explore their own sexuality and their own sexual nature. But for women, and like, I don't know who they're really supposed to be exploring with, since we're all bred to not wait, be the good girl, those kind of things, which I have nothing against that. I just find that that title sometimes causes a lot of women to really take on, and even men too. I find that it causes a lot of suffering amongst the person because they don't understand what the good girl is. And so a lot of times we'll overlove, overcompensate, overdo just for staying with this narrative. Now, I'm all about couples getting together and couples having a hard time and having breaks because sometimes that's important. We need to give each other space to expand. And I'm all about, when you're single, I find so many people get so depressed with being single. I get really excited, even, after getting rid of the initial heartbreak of my relationship and using some of the plants like mimosa and hawthorn. Mimosa helps move grief. Hawthorn is beautiful heart medicine. Lemon balm, everybody's heard of lemon balm. Lemon balm, again, is beautiful heart medicine. So I incorporated a lot of these herbal things, a lot of things for the nervous system, because I'm like, we're in a pandemic. My partner's like, I need space. What do I do? And community. Community is so important. I'm like, a lot of us tend to want to keep up a narrative about how we want to look instead of really being vulnerable and showing people what is really going on. After it's said and done, you're like, oh, well, we were going through, 3 years, 15 years, I've heard of people doing that, 23 years of people just staying together for whatever reasons that they give each other. And then when it's over, that's when they begin to open up. And I'm like, what if we could come together as a community just like this, just like I love that Holy Ground is giving this, to talk about the hard things, to not always be like, oh, Bay and I look good on Instagram. I mean, I have a lot of clients that, I see, my clients, and then like, they're on there like, yeah. And I'm like, and plus I'm a seer, ever since I was little. And so you see how couples move together. I've always loved love since I was a little child. I love love. So it's been a lifelong study of looking at couples and being like, okay, I give them about 7 months, a year, that's going to come out. And typically I'm always right. So I find that even my friends will tend to not introduce me to people they're going out with when they know they shouldn't be going out with them. Throughout my whole entire life, I would really, I'm like, oh, I haven't met them. And they're like, And then I meet them and I'm like, honey, are we looking? How do you want me to support? Do you want me to be the friend that really isn't paying attention to all of this red flags? And I'm like, yes, girl, yes. Or, okay, dude, fine, bro. But I think we have to come into these constant reality checks about our own list of non-negotiables, and they change from time to time. We also have to come into the awareness of the energy we're bringing into the room. I use my time for being single, really charting out and understanding what are these habit loops I've gotten into while choosing other partners. Let me get to the root of that. Where does it come from that I would just keep choosing similar people and keep ending up, I'm a common denominator, so I have to look at my own shadow side and my own shadow work. And it's been just this interesting experience. 2020 was the worst year ever and the best year I ever had at the same time. My brain was like processing so much that I decided to follow spirit and so many things that I moved to New Orleans. I left my home that I had lived at for a really long time and packed all my things up. And I said, I'm going to New Orleans. The pandemic made me realize I'm about halfway through my life. So I just want to live it to the best ability as I can. I want to seek out relationships that help me expand and expand my view of love. I want to learn to trust myself and my instincts. So I began to build this program for myself, and I've manifested so many beautiful things. And, instead of being in that practice of constantly asking your partner, I'm very big about verbally what I want, what I need. But the problem is I don't have the energy, not the energy. I really, when I'm telling someone, I will give them a million excuses not to do it, but I won't give myself the one excuse to understand that this isn't really going to happen. They have all of, the tools to make this dinner, and yet they're still going to do takeout. And like, how do you even begin to build yourself up from that? I think that one of the most important things was I began to work a lot with building, my tribe is really wonderful. I mean, I'll call them and they just, gas me up, and they're like, this, keep moving forward. This is okay. So again, we talk about in our loneliness, what does your tribe family look like? What is the circle that you keep, and how do they hold you accountable for your things, but also lift you up? So that's one of the beautiful things about, God and the Most High Spirit, however you identify with that energy, had already been sending me these people 3 years before that would line up for me for this. And these people helped sing the song of my soul when I forgot it. And that's what you need. Does your group, your tribe, your people surround that? And then I just began to explore. I don't really want to date right now. I want to have this openness of really dating myself. So I even believe that should be important when you're in a couple, a single, or whatever. Like, you should constantly be dating yourself. You should be like, what do I want to do? What kind of fancy dinner? I'm going to put my sexy dress on, my good suit on, and I'm going to take myself out on a date. When I see a lot of clients for spiritual coaching, one of the first things I have them do is break up with themselves. And I'm talking like Dear John or Dear Jane letter. It's not you, it's me. I did this when I was about 29 years old. Best thing I ever could do. I break up with myself probably every 5 to 7 years. And that gives you the way to expand. A lot of times our brains and our circumstances and trauma limit ourselves from expanding in ways of pleasure and juiciness and joy. Those words are so taboo, and we get into the state of, am I worthy of that? Am I not? I'm taking worthiness out of my vocabulary. I'm not doing that anymore. So I began to build these ceremonies, one of them being a breath meditation that I would like to share with you. We talked earlier about the body being a grid and helps circulate energy throughout the body. One of the most important things I learned also with Eastern medicine and having sex and pleasure as holistic health is that we recharge our batteries through that. And one of the most important things is to keep the energy flowing, whether we're having sex or not having sex. So that's why I got really into breath work and really showing people how to move that in the body. I learned also working with Eastern medicine that menopause can be partially preventable. We all have different dual energies that exist in the body. Yin being the more feminine, the darker energy, more water. And then we have yang, which is the more higher connected, light, masculine pull. And they weave through us in such a way. So this breath exercise, I don't know how many of you have heard of Kegel exercises or Kegel exercises. This one can be done whether you're, however you identify, if you were born male, female, however gender fluid, however you identify. We're talking about the power center and the chakra, which is a lot of times in India and medicine, they would call that the chakra. So it's the sacral chakra. So interesting thing about enough. The sacral chakra, which is the second chakra, root being family, is the first. It's a red color, also the color in African spirituality used to signify the ancestors. The second chakra is the sacral. So sacral has to do with sex, has to do with your money, your abundance. It has to deal with your creativity, how we move in the world. Yeah, I love that too. Break up with yourself. I'm so serious. You have to do it. And in the sacral chakra, a lot of times I'll do this breath meditation as compared to after women or after the person breaks up with themselves, takes themselves out to dinner, has this, put on a great outfit, write yourself a letter, be like, it's not you, it's me, I've changed. And sometimes we have to allow the old versions of ourselves to lay them to rest and understand we'll travel with traumas with us so much, then they start driving our car. And a lot of times we're like, thank you for helping me survive this long. I don't need you now. I got this. I got this. And so we ask that part of ourselves to kind of let it go so we can get into the juiciness that has ahead of us. So this first meditation, so we know that Kegel exercises are tightening of the muscle. So we're just going to have everybody do those. And it's kind of just pulling up. And if you don't know what a Kegel is, it's like either we're taking our yonis or vaginal areas. Our men, you can work this through with prostate areas also, or the same energy that comes from where the prostate aligns up to the front. So we're just working with the energetic power center. And so we begin to kind of clench but pull up. And now I want to get everybody to close your eyes because I want you to get more in your body. This is what this class is about. How do we get more in our bodies? How do we feel that? How do we fire off with this? So we want to do deep belly expansion breaths also. Just get relaxed a little bit. Just get relaxed. You can put your hands on your thighs. I kind of like that one too. It brings that awareness down. So deep breath in, belly expand. Exhale out. And we imagine the energy going down to the womb area, going down to that area that's below your belly button and your pubic bone. So belly in, breath in. And as we begin to just relax, we're going to start clenching that power center, that muscle. And I want you to just keep doing that. Well, now I'm going to teach you the correct way to do it. So I want you to imagine you're sucking a milkshake, a thick milkshake through a straw. So we're pulling this energy up and we want to imagine it coming up the back. In Chinese medicine, you have a circuit. It goes down, it goes up and down the body. So we want to imagine this energy as we pull up, coming up the back, cascading down the front, between our legs, up the buttocks, and front. So we just keep moving that as slowly as you need to. There is no hurry. This is your own rhythm of your own body. Taking the deep breath in, pulling energy up the back. Some call this the Kundalini energy. Starts at the base of the spine and works its way up, feeling the waterfall cascade down. I'm going to be silent and let you just be alone with your body. Clenching, thick milkshake up, the back up, and then cascading down the front through the legs. Let's do 2 more cycles. Okay. So I want you to be in awareness. I love to do this when I teach live because I'll have about 300 people sometimes in the room. Everybody's eyes are closed and you see these little sparks come up when I actually teach you how to do them the correct way. So how many people got a little spark? One of my favorite stories was having an elder come into a sacred sexology class, and she was probably like 78, 79. And she comes up to me at the end of the class and she's like, I really didn't understand a lot that you talked about because in my age, we didn't talk about that when we were young. Our mothers didn't talk about it either. But I went and got my friend and I some Yoni steaming herbs, and those are vaginal steaming treatment herbs. And she said, we're going to go and share them and have an experience. So that's another way of ceremony that I began to teach people, especially dealing with sexual trauma and coming back into their body. My first marriage, we had gotten into this like completely disconnected space. And then I heard about this ancient Korean tradition of Yoni steaming. And I was like, Yoni, we all know Yoni is the sacred portal in Sanskrit that is the vagina. But then I was like, steaming, like what? I didn't understand. So I actually went to the space and, very hesitantly, as bold as I am, sometimes, the Southern Belle comes out in me and I'll be a little prudish. So I keep pushing farther. So we go into, there's like 10 stalls that are in there, and they use these herbs and they put them under the table, under this chair with a hole in it. And they use these herbs to kind of move and facilitate circulation in our areas. This is amazing for our male identified. They call that a ligum steaming, great for prostate. It's also great for women with the tissues, it's great for regulating your menstrual cycle. I use it a lot with ceremony and helping move intergenerational womb trauma. And I work a lot with women with sexual trauma. We create these ceremonies, these personal ceremonies, using the steaming of the herbs and both the medicinal qualities, like comfreys and plantains, but I also think a lot about the spiritual properties of herbs. Roses are great for circulation, also for healing the heart. I also think of things that are move stagnant energy in those areas, like mugwort is used in Chinese medicine as moxibustion to move those stagnant areas. So I began to see this ceremony as not just, when you would go to places, Korean places, that you'd ask them, okay, what does this do? And they're like, it makes you tight. And you're like, I don't really think I have a problem. And that was the only, thing that they would say about it. So I began studying other cultures' connections to it as a rite of passage. And then for my own personal self, after I had it done, I had this new sense of my own body and my own self and my own sexual health and wellness. I would giggle all the time. People love to have me tell the story. I felt like my vagina would walk into the room and then I would come into the room after her. It was just like I was in my element. And so I really found that old healing modality brought back really helped reclaim my body and my center for myself. Because what I find is a lot of times our bodies are either like, if you're a mother, you've birthed a child, so the area is now associated there. Or, if we've come into these roles almost for our body parts, like it's only made to do this or that or another, that we don't really understand what it is for ourselves. And I think that's one of the most beautiful things as sexual exploration, using the breath work, using that combined with masturbation, to really work on understanding how your body works, how you like to be touched. And that way, when you have a partner, you'll be able to understand how better to communicate pleasure on a different level. And I also understand, we talked earlier about it being the sacral chakra, the power center for creativity, for money, and for abundance. I really have seen how that version of self, lack of self-love, lack of intimacy can have its effect when we're in like a sexless marriage or a relationship or those kind of things. So really coming into these ceremonies of self-love, like the Yoni steamings or the leg steamings, like the breath work and even massage. So I teach a lot of my personal clients about how to incorporate massage into your self-love care, into your masturbation materials. I'm really famous for this lube that I make. It's medicinal violets and comfrey and roses and calendula and those kind of things. Calendula, one of my teachers taught me, is an herbal plant. We all know what it is for skin soothing, but the magic of calendula that's used in different traditions is that it helps spread abundance in all areas. So abundance of love and joy. And I was like, okay, well, since the sacral chakra is about abundance, let's put some calendula, not only for the skin tissues, but also for weaving abundance. And it's really used as a sacred serum to put on for yourself, because that's the reason why I created it, was to help amplify my self-love game. But when couples would use it, I would get even emails from elders about them coming into doing the ceremonies of applying it to each other. It was just these beautiful, comments from even the elders talking about how they began to see each other and they felt like their orgasms made them feel like they were standing on the edge of the universe. And they're like, it's your product, it's your product. And I'm like, there's a lot of love in my product, but it's also just that coming into that practice of feeling and touching and coming back into the body. And massage is such a way of doing that. And again, I really find that even with myself and trying to really reignite that mojo in myself after my divorce, even putting on my body product every day has turned into this sensual act. I have this body oil that I put on. And as I put it on, I'm constantly saying these affirmations to myself, these mantras to myself, these prayers of self-love and telling myself that I'm beautiful and anointing each part of the body and breathing through that and really making each part a ceremony. My shower is a ceremony. I have beautiful products in there, like for spiritual bathing, great salt scrubs with roses and things that smell good. I'm all about sensual, textural things. My magic glue. You can email me and I will get you some. I'm about to make another batch. So I really love to incorporate and tell people these everyday things that we do that we rush through are really moments that we could use for self-love, self-nourishment, self-care, and to really ignite that internal flame in ourselves. I really love to also teach people who are single, like reevaluate your pleasure closet. Like what's in your drawer? Like what kind of things are you using? Let's go expand beyond that. Even couples, people who've been together for a long time. What are some new things that we want to bring to the table? What do you find pleasurable? And then asking myself, what do I find pleasurable? And that's the beautiful thing about the self-love journey. Once you try it on yourself, it becomes a little easier to be able to talk to your partner about it because you know what works for you. And then it's also understanding what is the barrier that is the lack of communication. I'd like to spend some time in talking about some other herbs because I am an herbalist. I have a new Mojo blend that I call it Mojo Rising, and I created that again to kind of increase my sexual drive, but also creativity. So it is Damiana, which is an herb, which is an herbal aphrodisiac. It also creates more circulation in your pelvic area. And then the after effect of that is an aphrodisiac. And I find that I use it for multiple purposes because it really has started me being in my own skin more. I really have noticed it kind of igniting that mojo because people keep asking, when are you going to date? Who are you going to date? And I'm like, I'm having so much fun being single and just loving myself that I don't even really think about that right now. I think about where am I going to travel to or what's the next story? And so I'm just deep in this self-love game, but I'm like, let me go ahead and work on that mojo. So Damiana is one of my go-tos for my clients about helping them to start to get more circulation into the pelvic area, to start to come into that awareness. We know sex is very mental, especially for women and females, that we have to get in the headspace, and all of our people who identify with that. So things that I like to add into there are really things that help with the nervous system also. So if you're having some convictions about even masturbation with yourself, or your partner's in the mood and you're not in the mood, you're stressed out, your job, I incorporate a lot of nerve ions into that. And things like kava. Kava is a beautiful muscle relaxer. I love to mix that with cacao, so chocolate, and you have some kava and roses in there. Sage, do I make it? I don't make sage tinctures typically. They're not as medicinal, and I really try to shy away from sage a lot. It's endangered. So there are some sources that I trust more than others that I purchase my white sage for smudging and cleansing areas. I also work to smudge and cleanse the body. And where we talked about with Yoni steamings, you can use a lot of the smudging products. That's the way they did it in Africa, was they would dig holes in the ground and then put the sacred incenses and stand over them and then let the smoke come up the body using the air element that's there. But I don't really tincture sage. It's not one of my big go-tos, but I do know some people that do. If you email me, I can try to help you with that. Or I don't know if you want it for the incense. So we talked about what is our Mojo tonic. So Damiana, sometimes horny goatweed is another one that helps a lot with people. I always giggle at the name of it, especially when I send some couples to go buy it and they're like giggling. They're like, "Can I say that?" I'm like, "Do you need me to call ahead and have them in order for them?" It's like trying to get your dad to buy you tampons or something. I don't know. I'm like, it's horny. That just say it. Like vagina, like those words that we don't need to make up cute little phrases for. My one friend did call hers her ring box. I kind of like that one. So we're talking about nervines. Let's get us in a chilled mood. Let's get in some of these. The kava skull cap is another one that's really good that helps with the nervous system. Another one I like to use, passion flower, is another one that helps with the nervous system. So you want to get yourself, sometimes it's like sipping on a little, liquor, a little half glass wine, those kind of things. Like begin to put yourself in the ceremony of doing that. This is in a couple, or even this is your night, self-love date night with yourself. Like pour yourself, I like scotch. So sometimes scotch and a couple ice cubes is like the thing for me. I like to play some old school music. That's my thing. I also really highly suggest you create a playlist for yourself first, like a playlist of songs that really turn you on, that really, inspire that. And like as a single person who's trying to manifest a partner, when you put yourself in the mood and understand what you need, then you're better able to send that vibration out into the world to call in that person. So I'm like, build that dream date playlist, build it. And then as you're sitting at home, take yourself on that dream date. I learned when I was 29, we were sitting in Tiffany's and I bought myself my first piece of Tiffany's. I'd been working in the spa industry and I'm like, I'm getting myself a gift. I'm all about pleasure and decadence and self-love. That's why I teach it, because I'm going to reward myself. And so I'm in Tiffany's and we're giggling and the ladies are letting us try on things. And this woman comes in and she's just beautiful. She's like this African unicorn. I mean, just beautiful. And she's like, "What are you girls doing over here?" And we were like, "Oh, I'm thinking about buying this." And she was like, "Shit, honey, if you don't do it for yourself, how can you ever expect somebody else to do it?" And I'm like, in 5 seconds, this woman changed my whole view of everything. If you don't do it for yourself, how can we ever expect someone else to manifest and do that for us? So really take the time during COVID and this great pause to understand the level of self-love that you have. Really take the time to be gentle with yourself and sit in these pauses and learn to connect with the body, the mind, and the spirit. How can I align through those? I teach sacred sexology on multiple platforms. And I noticed that a lot of times in the church, it is definitely one of those topics that still seem to be so taboo. And the spiritual union that we come together in the nature of when we really truly see each other is one of the most blessed unions and wonderful feelings that we have in this human experience. And I love to teach people how to expand past that. But I would notice when I was in large groups that people would tend to look at their pastor before they would make a comment or laugh or do those things. And that's why I'm very grateful for Reverend McQueen Simmons and her platform here to really open those containers up and be able to discuss them. When we heal in this, we help the children heal. When we're able to discuss this, we're able to give the knowledge to our children to help protect themselves also. I really think that these are conversations that need to be had in churches in multiple levels that facilitate healing. In my over 30 years of doing this and holding space for men and women and non-binary folk, I really sadly have found that the majority of people and their sexual trauma, their first moment happened in church. I would probably safely say almost half of my clients, their first sexual encounter or first violation, let's not even say encounter, their first violation happened in the church. These are important topics that we need to address sexual wellness and health, not only for our own safeguard, but for the safety of everyone around us. And the more that we start to do these and hold these ceremonies, hold space for ourselves, get into these spaces with our partners where we can expand and heal, I really understand that we can really start healing a lot of intergenerational trauma. I want to see if anybody has any more questions. We're about to come to the end. I'm going to bring Reverend McQueen Simmons back in to see if she has anything to say. Hey, girl, hey.
Hi. I'm just sitting here just thinking about everything you said. So y'all, I'm on vacation. So I have my phone as my notepad today. I didn't even go in there and grab my journal, but I was just sitting here just taking notes, and I have here, just in case you missed it, I'm gonna give you a quick recap. That's not even gonna give you the details of what's happening, but I'm gonna give you a little bit. We have some questions. Okay, Black Pruitt, bring in your questions. Okay, you wanna okay, look like Black Pruitt is gonna connect with you one on one. Okay,
Yes.
that's awesome. So if anyone have any questions now, feel free to drop them in the chat. And if you want to send an anonymous question, um, email it to Holy Ground Spiritual Center at gmail.com. So
Okay.
that's going to be WHOLY Ground Spiritual Center at gmail.com. If you have a question that you want to send in anonymously. So I'm going to give this recap, and I do see some questions
We have a
coming
couple
in.
in there. Yeah.
So Lucretia had talked about love. She talked about how people have overcompensated during their relationship. She gave us a plethora of herbs that we can look into. She talked about the necessary of community, and not forgetting that while you're trying to be in healthy relationship with yourself or a partner or partners. She even talked about breaking up with yourself and dating yourself again. Like, oh my goodness, I've never even thought about that. I'm gonna do it one day. I'm led to
Don't
do it.
wait. Don't wait. I've broken up with myself 482 times.
Because I've never broken up with myself, but I do date myself a lot. I would take myself on a date in a heartbeat. So I'm like, oh, let me see what that feels like to break up. At least I know I can bring myself back, you know. So
Yeah. Oh, you can. And your world expands so much bigger. Our ideas that we have about our life are so small than what the Most High has for our life.
I'm here for it. Like, thank you for that. I'm holding that like right here, like on
Yeah.
my to-do list. She talked about the sacral chakra. She talked about Kegel exercises. I was sitting here trying to do that meditation, and I don't know, sis. We're gonna have to. I may need some little help because I got this little pouch after having that baby. Things ain't moving like they used to. So I don't know if I have to do the same one. If there's another one for us who's had a
We can
baby.
have a one-on-one, and that's
Okay,
what
because
you need to do because you've had a baby. And even women who haven't had children, prolapsed uteruses are real. Get your pelvic floor together, or it's not pretty when you're older. Okay, so we have
Okay.
a couple
We have a
questions.
question. We have a question.
Let's do the first one. I see the first one is about horny goat weed. Yes, that's definitely not many people tincture it, but you can get either buy the dry herb and make tea. You can look for the tincture. Every once in a while at the store, you can find the vials of it that you can kind of break into there. I like to take that because it's typically more for our male identified people to help with their stamina and mojo, but it can work as well for others. So I really like to blend it into things. Like I told you, that sexy cacao drink, that hot chocolate with the horny goat weed, with the Damiana in there, the tincture. I had to make a tincture for a party one time to get everybody lit. And by the end of the night, the bartender was like, "What did you put in that drink?" And I was like, "Oh, the yeah."
Oh my goodness.
So I love that. So yes, you would want to take that probably about 1 hour, an hour and a half before you really want to, or just start incorporating it in your day. Maybe not take it before you like go to church, or like before you are at a business meeting, because you'll just be like, whoo, whoo,
You be
hey,
happy.
hey.
Okay.
So which is better? Both work equally. Tinctures are going to be a more concentrated dose, and teas are going to be a lesser dose. So I can do some private, if you want to email me a question about that. We had another one is, how do you take yourself on a date? I'm so good at this one. Like, I love to eat by myself. I don't have that problem that most people do. I just feel like I have to be alone. So the biggest question is, what do you like to do? I noticed I had the hardest time. I had 2 7-year relationships kind of back to back, and this last one, that I had tended to my partner so much that I forgot what I like to do, or like what I wanted to eat at the grocery store. Like I could name 50 things that they wanted at the grocery store, and I was always tailoring a lot of things. So when I take myself on a date, it depends on what mood I'm in, what kind of thing I want to do. Yesterday I'm in New Orleans, so date night becomes really exciting. The other day I was just kind of frustrated with some business things, and I was like, I'm gonna go to the river. So we went and had African food, walked through the French Quarter, and then got beignets at Cafe Du Monde, and then watched the sunset, watching the Mississippi and the water reflect off that. And then I wanted to do something fun and adventurous, so I got like a little, one of those bike cab rides through the quarter and look. So your self-love date can be so many different things. Your favorite food, your favorite restaurant. If you're not wanting to go out now, do takeout, but please take it out the box. Don't eat it in the box. Get the plate, get the candle, get the fancy glass, get the fancy china, get
Yes.
all that. Play the Marvin Gaye, or
Yes.
play whatever, Cardi B, if you need to get pumped. I mean, my meditations go so far. It's like, we can have WAP over here, and then we can have church music in the morning. Like, it goes everywhere. Megan Thee
I love
Stallion,
it.
get you a diva. It could be anybody. It could be Tina. It could be anybody. Like, anybody that invokes that. Like, listen to that music. Get dressed up. I don't care if you're sitting at home in front of Netflix. Once a week, put your lipstick on, put your makeup on, do your hair just for you. Buy the sexy lingerie or the good cologne just for you first. I dress every day for myself and how I feel. So again, if you're not ready to go out in the world, do a picnic. Take your picnic basket and your foods and those kind of things. Even on your lunch break, go buy a body of water, take a blanket, and just sit there and journal. Think about those things. Go to the art gallery. Find your rhythm and what you like to do, so you will call that energy in for someone else who loves that too.
Yeah. Manifest it.
Yes, manifest it. I'm telling you, practice that breath routine I had, doing it with the sacral chakra work. Like, I can't tell you how much money, first of all, I've been able to attract doing that. First of all. Second of all, I manifested from my apartment in New Orleans. I stand and look at the space when I was like, I'm going to live here in this neighborhood. I drink coffee every morning looking at that spot right there. And that was just purely dedicating nothing but self-love to myself, pouring in the things I kept begging someone else for back into myself. My ancestors heard me, the Most High heard me. They knew that I was giving this love, and now I'm ready to pour it back onto myself.
Mm.
So we're talking about the next question. What does breaking up with yourself look like? How do you suggest this? And many have a problem with breaking up with other people. Yes, breaking, either if you're the one who leaves or the one who is left, those are two decisions are the hardest ones in your life. Breaking up with yourself can look like a many things. The first time I did it, I was in my late 20s. I just got back from Thailand doing a lot of some mission work and like running through. And I met these women and people and families in certain areas that no matter how hard they tried, they would never have a choice of having another life. Like we see poverty, but like when you travel internationally, especially to countries and you're in the tribe in the mountains, you see that. And so I came home with a new perspective. I'm like, I can make every decision about my life that I possibly can. I'm still in this relationship. I'm still choosing to be straight, really, or bisexual at that time. But I was clinging to this hetero looking life because I wasn't ready to make that commitment, even though my whole world was around same gender loving, queer, gay, all of that. I wasn't. So I sat there next to this guy who I did not want to be with at all, but I knew it was my last chance at, being normal or ish, whatever that is. That was just a stupid, thing that we get implanted by society. So I'm sitting here with a martini in front of this bartender, and I was sitting there like, you know what? It's not you, it's me. I'm going to give myself the freedom to explore my life in the best way. So mine happened sitting next to somebody I did not want to be with in a life that I no longer wanted to be a part of in the hotel lobby of Atlanta hotel. So this is what I have my clients do. I have them put on their best outfit. I have them, first of all, spend time writing a letter. Why, the who, what, when, where, whys of different things. Coming into the forgiveness statement of forgiving yourself. Not that you did anything wrong, but it's just that sometimes we don't love ourselves because of something someone else did or because someone could not receive love. Love is a superpower. We are meant to move from a heart space. And the biggest understanding is just because somebody, because of their traumas, can't receive it doesn't make anything wrong with you. So keep loving forward. Keep taking every breakup as a breakthrough, as a break open. I
Yes,
want to
yes.
expand my love in such a way. Like I'm like, dear God, please turn my pain into a purpose. That's all I pray for. And each
Wow.
time I step into the room and teach people how I've been able to bounce back each time by igniting that self-love. So you're gonna put the good outfit on. You're gonna put the
Yes.
sexy cologne or perfume on. You're gonna put the lipstick on. You can bring in that meal, even set your old self a plate on the other side of the table. Whatever you need to
Mm-hmm.
do, drink, go take yourself out to dinner, take yourself to the
Mm-hmm.
river. Read this letter out loud, then burn it and scatter into the wind. That's one
Yeah.
simple ceremony. And then my client sent me this great one, had this huge black hat on and this sexy black dress. And she's like, I just did it. Then take yourself out and do something amazing. Buy
Mm-hmm.
that slice of cake. Get that sexy, silky lingerie, something that is just really stepping into some form of deliciousness. Let's not think about how I can afford it or those things. And it could be as simple as other things. Yes, the hard conversations. I pray a lot when I know I need to have hard conversations. And I
Mm-hmm.
ask my ancestors and I ask God to please come in with grace. Because this last one, I did not ask for grace. I just asked them to come on in and they cleaned all my stuff out, all of it. and ask them and pray. The ancestors are there. They're in your bone marrow. They're there to help you. We know that God is always there and always around us to hear us, to help us. And I would sit there and write the conversation out the way I wanted it to go. Then I would pray with my ancestors and God and ask them to facilitate it this way. And that seemed to be a way to buffer it. I saw an early question about shower rituals and what you could do in the shower. If you don't make body products, go to some place. I create them for people. I customize them with certain herbs according to you. But you can go, even if you can only place this Target or whatever, buy some great body scrub, a salt. I like using sugar sometimes because sugar adds sweetness to ourselves. So we got the scented oils. You can make them using some raw sugar and, olive oil or some of your sunflower or grapeseed oils. Add in your favorite essential oils. I know you love essential oils, Reverend. That's your favorite. So you can
I
add
have
it.
sleeves on right now.
You can add those in. Use sexy ones. Like I love cinnamon. Cinnamon is burned also as a spiritual plant for manifestation. And in some African cultures, when we talk about Oshun and some of the Orishas that are there, cinnamon is one of the things that you would bring to her, in her offerings. So those are some things I love to do. Even your regular hair wash day, like all of us natural people, like hair wash day is usually like, ugh, it's time to wash my hair. And I'm like, this is your Ori, the most important in African spirituality, is the most important energy. That's why in the old day, you did not touch it. This is where the soft spot, this is where, sorry. So even shampooing your hair, take it slow, comb it out. Using scented oils or a good moisturizer, rubbing it on the body, using your positive affirmations for the body. So,
Ooh, I
manifestation.
think I think that was all of the questions. This has been everything, sis, just as I knew it would be. I knew it would be. So if there are any other questions and you want to reach out to Lucretia VanDyke, we have been posting her information here. If you are okay, she had posted her IG account. We had our IG, her YouTube. Let me find it right quick. Here we are. If you want to connect with Lucretia VanDyke, here it is. Sessiongroup.com, Lucretia VanDyke, Instagram at Lucretia Zen. Okay. And email lucretiavandyke1@gmail.com. Y'all, this has been amazing. I'm going to share a few announcements with you all. And if you are interested in helping us to continue to get people like Lucretia to come and share things with us, feel free to donate to holyground.org. There are various ways you can give. I tell you, we use all of our resources for anything that's relevant to our community when it comes to radical inclusion, anything that's going to help us be more connected with ourselves, connected with each other, and connected with the divine. That's who we are, and that's what we are about at Holy Ground Spiritual Center. So we are a virtual church or a spiritual center, and we do church differently. This is us having church tonight. So so if you all are interested in having church with us, we invite you to join us. Here's another way you can give. I'm going to announcements so you can see what we have happening in our world. So if you are interested in joining us, our next event is our community book discussion. It's going to be May 29th at 2 p.m. 2 p.m. And we are on the first first agreement. So if you are ready to come and talk about being impeccable with your word, we're going to do chapter 2, pages 25 through 46. Come on in. We are here for you.
I love
Look
that
like
book.
my screen got cut off, but let's see here. Let me get back in the room. Our next event is going to be, let's see here. 1 second, y'all. That's the joy of the internet, how it will kick you out the room. But it's all good because we got this. We got this right here. Okay. Our next event, if you are interested in following us on our series, we're going to have our next one in July. 1 second. No, in June. I'm trying to pull it up, y'all. I'm sorry, I'm getting a little distracted because I'm trying to pull up this this slide. Like we got kicked out, but we back in. We back in. Let's see here. So here we are. I'm going to show, if you want to follow us in our services, on the first of each month, we have our holy meal. For those who are Christian, it's people call it a communion. On the second Sunday of each month, we have our contemplative worship, where I'll guide you through a meditation. It's just a perfect place to sit and rest and write, color, whatever you need to do. It's an intentional around about 30 minutes of rest. On the 9th of each month, we have our holy experience. It's usually contemporary, kind of modernish in our spirituality. And on the third Sundays of each month, and both of these are at 10 a.m., I usually follow the Christian calendar and I offer a preached word. And all of these are going to be live on Facebook and YouTube. And then, as you see, we have our Holistic Faith Series that is still happening. We have 2 more speakers, and I'm telling you all, y'all don't want to miss them. They are pretty amazing. Yante Turner will be here June 15th at 8 p.m. And they're all over. Hazel was in the DC area. Lucretia's in New Orleans area. We have Yante Turner, y'all. Yante is all the way on the West Coast in Washington State. Like, amazing. And then we have Reverend Dale back in the South in North Carolina. They are going to be ready to bring us a different perspective of this Holistic Faith Series. So it's just going to be amazing. And here are other ways that you can give, just in case you missed them the first time. We have Easy Tithe. You could do it on the website, and there's also an app. You can text to give to 980-326-5001, or you can donate at holyground.org. And y'all, I tell you, running this virtual church is just like running a brick and mortar. I'm telling you, there's no expense that I thought we could cut corners with. So we are committed to giving our holy grounders and our followers the best we can give. And we need your help to make sure that we can maintain this and give you all you need to make sure you have a holistic faith of mind, body, and spirit. We are here for it. So feel free to donate to us. Just in case you needed to see our website, it's at holyground.org. Follow us, connect with us. We have a YouTube page as well. We try to have everything going on simultaneously, or if something happens on Facebook, we will add it to YouTube. But when we're doing our Holistic Faith Series, our YouTube and Facebook is live, and even Twitter is live simultaneously. So here's our Facebook, Holy Ground Experience. Follow us, like us, share us with people you know are looking for a faith community where they can be unapologetically who they are. We are all on a different life journey, a different faith journey. And at Holy Ground, we are here for you to nurture you and help you walk through that faith journey. We have so many different teams that you can join. And if you don't want to join, I am here to help you be a part of it. And I'm going to finish these announcements, and we will have our last word by Lucretia. So hang on, everyone. We're going to have some parting words by Lucretia. This is our Instagram account and our Twitter account. And we have a Snapchat too, just in case you all are into that. We have a Snapchat. And I am going to bring Lucretia back to center stage. And Lucretia, do you have any parting words for us?
Continue to strengthen your practice of self-love. Be gentle with yourself, especially right now and any time after now. Understand, use this time wisely to be able to self-nourish, self-love, and really recommit to yourself. Be very gentle with the process because there's many layers of grief, and many of us carry a lot of traumas that associate with how we choose partners and how we love ourselves. Find a mantra, something that can really ignite you and keep you focused on a deeper journey in self-love.
Thank you very much. It
You're
has
welcome.
been a pleasure and honor to share this space with you.
Thank you.
Everyone, thank you for joining us. Thank you for joining us. Yes, this was an abundance of information.
Thank
Thank
you
you.
all. Hope to
Thank
see you
you.
again. I'll have me back anytime.
Awesome.
Good night, everybody.